What's going on, everybody, and welcome to GNR Central. And today I want to talk about how Izzy communicates with Axel, at least post 1995. So the last time Izzy played with the band was in 1993. If we're talking about 1995, he had played 5 dates on the Use Your Illusion tour to fill in for Gilby when he broke his wrist in a motorcycling accident. So they left on pretty bad terms. And for the subsequent shows that where Gilby came back from his injury, Axel basically dedicated Double Talk and Jive each time to Izzy. It seemed like Izzy may have had a dispute with the band over money, and that's one of the reasons why he came back and played those 5 shows, and he basically left without saying goodbye to anybody. So suddenly we come to March in April of 1995, Izzy's back in the picture again, at least when it comes to writing. So according to GNR Revolution, which has a great timeline of the making of Chinese democracy, basically Slash is out on tour with Snake Pit, but Izzy and Duff start writing songs together. So Izzy told an interviewer in 2001, once in 1995, I went to ring the doorbell at Axel's place and he opened the door. And I go, there he is. He's like, hey man, glad to see you. Gives me a big hug and shows me around his house. It was great, Izzy said. So according to an interview that Izzy gave to a French publication in 2001, in April of 95, Duff calls me again. He says, I'm trying to compose new songs for the guys in GNR. Come and give me a hand. It made 5 years that I'd left Guns, but I said to myself, well, shit, after all, why not? Duff and I wrote 10 songs in the space of a week, and we even recorded them as demos. So Slash told the New York Times in 1995 of April that there's a lot of debate over who's going to play guitar. Axel and I were having an argument about it yesterday. So the argument may have been related to Izzy's sudden return to the Guns camp and his possible re-entering to the band. So Slash told Metal Hammer that Izzy's been writing. He wrote some stuff with Duff and he wants to write songs, but he doesn't want to deal with the whole thing. He's so laid back, he doesn't want to deal with any pressure. So Slash also said that Izzy agrees with writing stuff, but he's not interested in touring. He doesn't want to deal with Axel. So about a month after Izzy's back in the fold with Guns N' Roses, he tells a story of how Axel called him up one day. So he says, probably a month later, one night Axel calls me and we got into the issue of me leaving Guns N' Roses. I told him how it was on my side, told him exactly how I felt about it and why I left. But I mean, he's having a effing notepad. I could hear him turning the pages going, well, and you said this in 1982. He was bringing up a lot of weird old shit. And I'm like, whatever, man. But that's the last time I talked to him. And that was 6 years after the incident that Izzy said. So Izzy would come up again in 2001. So he got a call out of the blue from Axel. So Axel wanted to go back and revisit some of those demos that Duff and Izzy recorded back in April of 1995. So Izzy told a story how in 1995, Duff and me recorded songs for the band. We made a tape that went nowhere. Then a couple of months ago, I have a message on my answering machine. It goes, yo, it's Axel. I need a copy of the songs that you did. There was one called Down by the Ocean or Down by the Sea. They may have used it. I haven't come back to knowing anything, Izzy said. Around the same time, Axel also called him again, and this was around the time that they were going to play Rock in Rio. So this was around February of 2001, and Axel called me when they had planned to play Rock in Rio, and I don't believe he hoped to reform the group as a whole because I'm the only one he called. But in any event, I declined the offer. So Guns N' Roses management company Big FD had officially confirmed that Buckethead and former Nine Inch Nails guitarist Robin Fink are handling the noodling duties for the band on the guitar, but it seemed like at one point Izzy was possibly going to make an appearance. So there was an interview that Dizzy Reed did with Metal Sludge magazine, and he talked about his thoughts on the different members of Guns N' Roses, and he talked about Izzy, and he revealed some stories about Izzy that we really hadn't heard before. So he said, you have to understand that Izzy is one of those people that does whatever he wants. When I joined the band, he sometimes just didn't show up. Examples include the recording of the music video for Don't Cry and the music video for You Could Be Mine. At the end in the scene where the band exits the studio and sees Arnold, where's Izzy? Oh yeah, he wasn't there. Obviously part of the reason that Izzy left might have been the fact that he and Axel didn't get along towards the end, but that's just part of it. I mean, about the Juju Hounds, I have a friend who was a guitarist for the band back in the early 90s, and he was always complaining about how Izzy would not show up for shows. I comment that Izzy is turning into Axel, which puts a frown on Dizzy's face. And just as a musician, Izzy used to be a great songwriter. His contribution to Guns N' Roses' first album are phenomenal, but it's almost like the guy has lost the fire. I mean, I saw the guy a couple of years ago back in the studio, and he was showing me a song he had just written called Tooth Puller. It was literally about him visiting the dentist and getting his tooth pulled out. Dizzy would then go on to sing some of the lyrics, and he says, I mean, this guy's a guy who wrote some badass songs, and now he's just writing about getting his tooth pulled. I mean, come on, could you imagine Axl singing that live? And then basically Dizzy was asked about rumors that Izzy had been paying visits to Axel's Malibu mansion over the last few years and had been rejected at the door several times, to which Dizzy said, yeah, he's always doing that. He'd done it actually a few times. And he basically said that it doesn't mean that Izzy wants back in GNR. The guy sort of just does his own thing. He did join us back during the Use Your Illusion tour briefly. Gilby had hurt himself, and so he stepped in for a few dates. I mean, the guy's really weird is the best way to describe it. 91, we were playing some shows in England. Like one day we were having the time of our lives playing a sold-out Wembley show, and the next day I talked to Izzy, and he's like, I'm leaving the band. And I'm like, what? And he's like, Dizzy, I'm leaving the band. I personally don't understand him to any extent. So even in 1999, it seemed like Duff and Izzy were talking, and Izzy told him that he went and visited Axel's house. So Duff gave an interview in 1999 with Burn Magazine where he said, to tell you the truth, Izzy visited Axel's house about 2 weeks ago. So he said somebody told him that Axel is not there, answering over the interphone at the gate. First he said, wait a minute, and then he came back and said he is gone. Izzy said okay and went back. There was always an emotional thing with GNR, at least the old GNR. So a year later, Axel gave an interview to Rolling Stone where he brought up the incident. Axel casually mentions that a while back a security camera caught an unannounced visit by Izzy Stradlin to his front gate, but he quickly adds he had no interest in getting together with his old school buddy and former collaborator whom he originally followed to Los Angeles from Indiana. Axel said, it wouldn't be healthy for me, Rose explains. So Izzy went on in that 2001 interview about how he tries to get in touch with Axel every couple of years. So he said, every 2 or 3 years, I'll put in a call to his office and say, hey, tell Axel, give me a call if he wants to. But I mean, the weirdness of his life, to me, I live a pretty normal life. I can go anywhere. In 2001, I don't think people really gave a shit. But for Axel, I know for the longest time, because his face was all over the television and stuff, I don't think he could really go anywhere or do anything. And I think because of that, he kind of put himself in a little hole up there in the hills. He kind of dug in deeper and deeper, and I think now he's gone so effing deep. He's just, I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I know he doesn't drive, which is kind of unheard of in LA, and he doesn't do anything. I've never seen him in the town. Isolation can be a bad thing, but Axel's been at it for such a long time now. You know, he always stays up late at night. He drifts off, not even trying to find the words this time. So the key to Axel's personality, reckons Izzy, still lies back in Lafayette. In high school, you know, Axel, he had long red hair. He was a little guy, and he got a lot of shit because of it. I think he never got laid too. In high school, I hate to bring this up because it's getting nasty, he laughs, but he never got no pussy at school. And so now he's a big effing rock star. He's got the chicks lined up, he's got the money, and he's got the people, and the power went to the guy's head. I mean, he was an effing monster, nuts and crazy. And I never saw it coming. I mean, this is my side of it. He'd probably say I'm completely crazy, but I think he went power mad. Suddenly, he was trying to control everything. And did you ever see those effed up contracts for journalists to sign, he asks, referring to the notorious consent forms that Axel foolishly tried to foist on the media in 1991. The control issues just became worse and worse, and eventually it filtered down to the band. He was trying to drop contracts for everybody. And this guy, he's not a Harvard graduate. Axel, he's just a guy, just a little guy who swings, who sings, is talented. But man, he turned into an effing maniac, and I did too. But it was a different kind of maniac. I was paranoid about the business aspect, freaking out, going, where's all the money? So Stradlin also went on to tell a hair-raising story of a missing $1 million advance from a merchandising company. He said, I'm out of my effing gourd, right? I'm at the fax machine and I've got like 100 faxes strung across this room. And I've got a pistol on the desk because I kept hearing people walking on my roof, right? So I'm snorting coke, faxes keep coming, snorting more coke, and I'm reading through the stuff, just trying to grasp what had happened to us. The call that really sent me off my rocker was from one of my attorneys. I said, there was $1 million advance. Where is it? And he goes, well, Izzy, I don't really know right now. I was like, are you kidding me? And it was just the last thing, and I snapped completely. For Axel, the money wasn't a big deal, but he had a little power thing where he wanted complete control. And you can say, well, it goes back to your effed up childhood where his dad used to smack him around, you know, and he had no control. So now he's getting it back, but it's like, it's still kooky, you know. You don't have everybody signing stuff. So when Axel finally sent his old high school friend a contract to sign, it was the final straw. This is right before I left, demoting me to some lower position. They were going to cut my percentage of royalties down, and I was like, F you, I've been here from day one. Why should I do that? F you, I'll go play the whiskey, and that's what happened. It was insane. So that does it for this episode of Guns N' Roses True Story. I still want to dive a little bit deeper in Izzy Stradlin. I feel like there's a lot of stuff about Izzy and Guns N' Roses that I haven't explored as part of my YouTube channel, so I want to keep talking about Izzy. But let me know your thoughts on these stories about Izzy and some of his songwriting. It's kind of funny. Dizzy told a story about Tooth Puller, and then there was another story I read about Izzy where he apparently was watching the Weather Channel one day and just decided to write a song about the weather, or because it was raining outside. It's kind of a weird thing, but I wish Izzy would put out more of his tunes that he's been working on over the years. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for the latest GNR news. And go check us out on gnrcentral.com for the latest and greatest Guns N' Roses news. Take care.
Hey, this is Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses, and you're watching GNR Central. Yeah!